Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, less known classic. This episode number 3430 and Doubleshot number 3424. I got two DC trades to discuss here. First up we have is The Flash by Cy Spurrier, Volume 3, As Above. This collects issues 14 and 19 of The Flash, Volume 6. And this is the second and last trade collection from the run, because the very next trade is the last I don't have with me, per se, because I wanted to get this review done first for this, and then get the next trade. Yes, and of course, Cy Spurrier himself was replaced by Mark Waid. Making his return to the title since like 2003, I think it was when he left the title. Yes, I get the reason why they brought him into the title, because Simon Spurrier basically is not hitting it with readers, despite the fact he was on this title for 2 years. It's just didn't hit well people. It's just that his style, I think it clashed. It didn't fit, because he treats it like a horror title. So, yeah, we also have Benicio Gorgoff on the artwork, with Mike Del Muto on the cover artwork here. So, we start off with the Arctic Circle. We have this guy. I think it's Vandal Savage. And then we see this weird alien who's riding a dinosaur. And, well, then we're in Scartaris. Yep, the home of Warlord. Travis Morgan, a creation of Mike W. Barr, a character who is based upon himself, despite the fact that he is drawn to look exactly like Green Arrow. Yeah, they basically poked fun of this a few times over the years. So, yeah. So, the West family on vacation in Scartaris. So, we also have where we have, looks like to be Barry and Ace paying a visit to Iron Heights, which they updated the prison, look very different, where it's got glass cells, and the first person he sees is Godspeed. Yep, and then we have this barbecue. Yes, a barbecue. We have just Barry and Wally just chatting, and then, of course, he's called Duty. Yeah, and by the way, Barry is, he's powerless, because the event's absolute power took away his powers. So Wally is like one of the top speedsters in DC Universe. Yep, and then, of course, he gets a contact with Travis Morgan, a.k.a. Warlord. He's talking to Red Tornado, who is in pieces. Yeah, believe it or not, his body is in pieces. It's revealed this in the Justice League Red title. So yeah, they're paying a visit, and then of course we have Irie paying a visit to the Watchtower, where we see the Challenge Unknown, Batman, Black Lightning, Superman, Zatanna, Renee Montoya the Question, and Wonder Woman. And here's the thing of Wonder Woman. You see that costume she's wearing? As of this year, she is wearing that costume for 10 years. Yes, 10 years. So, Superman, of course, they gave back the tights back in I think it was like 2018 they gave him back that thing. It was right after, it was basically when Bendis came on that title. He basically put back in tights, which they had to basically poke fun of that. So Wally's in Paris, stopping various people. Irie has to go out, of course. Irie's Marsh Manor's here too. And then we see Pilgrim. Yes. One of the agents they had here in this book. So, yeah. We also see this alien girl that they fight. Looks like a monster girl. And basically, in a way, they're here taking on Weather Wizard, who's in Scartaris for some reason. Scartaris, the way it's treated by DC Comics nowadays, it's like, the best way to describe it, it's like It's their version of the Savage Land. And Travis Morgan sometimes is treated like Kazar, despite the fact that he wasn't speaking in broken English when he was first introduced. He actually has his own solo stuff before. He was not like into some group type like the X-Men, which he debuted, I think it was issue 8, I think it was, on Kenny X back in the 1960s. Yeah, Travis Morgan made his debut a decade later. Of course, his is more a cross between a little bit of Kazar and Conan the Barbarian. But that's the way Kazar treats now. It very rarely appears. So Flash deals with Weather Wizard, and of course Irie's trying to help out with of course basically her brother. And then we bring up, that apparently this issue takes place prior to Justice League Limited number 2. Like, so are you saying this whole storyline takes place between issues 1 and 2 of Justice League Limited? And then here's Travis Morgan. Yep, he is here. Yep. I'm guessing Cysperi decided to include him because... why not? Because he's a character who doesn't get used very much at all, so why not use him here? And then we see Dr. Occult. Unless you're a hardcore comic reader, you're like, who the heck is this guy? He's an old school character who I think debuted back in the 50s, I think it was. He hasn't really appeared a lot over the years. He's basically a more nicer version of John Constantine. Yes. Because John Constantine is basically DC's #1 dick in their universe. Because he's a jerk. But a very lovable jerk, mind you. And he basically, despite stuff he said and stuff he's done, there's some things, the way he's written, he has regretted some things over the years. Like, there's an incident that happened that was mentioned in the Hellboy as a comic that's referenced occasionally over the years, the Newcastle incident, where him and his friends tried to do an exorcism, and it went really poorly. Yes. And it's one of his most biggest regrets of his whole entire life he's ever had. So, that's basically what happened there. So, here, and then for some reason we're introduced to Etrigan, believe it or not, so not only bringing Warlord and Scarterus, we're bringing freaking Calypso. Because why not? Yeah, let's bring in Calypso. Okay, interesting. So, Linda gets basically show this whatever. Travis gets a chance to do some stuff here. And then, Jay ends up on the moon. Yep, he ends up on the moon. Yep. Where we get a flashback to All In #1. You're probably thinking, how the heck do I know this is from All In #1? Because it is. Yes, that's where this is from. I know because I've read it. So, and then we cut to some Frozen era. We see Nightwing, Black Canary, and Dr. Colt dealing with Wally. He's like, he's a little out of control. He's influenced by Calypso. Okay, at least Calypso makes a little bit of sense, even though he's a bit supernatural, but at least he's a supervillain. So, and then we deal with this girl again. And of course, now he's being possessed and fights the girl. And then it sure turns out that Warlord is being possessed by Calypso. Despite the fact he's supposed to be a separate being, per se. Where he's a spirit now, not like in a diamond that people possess and then become a Calypso. It's weird. And then after he's beaten, of course, then you see like a future version of himself. There's like racing, and then he disappears. And then we see Mr. Terrific here. And then the book ends with basically a lead into a storyline that will end Simon Spurrier's run. Bad Moon Rising. This was pretty good. I'd say this definitely was a step up from his first two story arcs, because they're actually featuring characters from the DC comic universe. Warlord and Eclipso. Which, cool they featured him. So I give the book roughly surprisingly, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 because I like the first two trades, which felt okay. This felt like a big step up. Oh my gosh, it's a big step up from the first two volumes. Alright, so next up we have is Nightwing by Dan Winters, Volume 1. On with the show! Collecting issues 119 to 124 of Nightwing. Yeah, weird thing is, with the first issue of this, they released this before the final issue of Tom Taylor's Nightwing. Not really sure why. It is one of the 2 times I have ever seen this where you have a writer's last issue gets delayed, and then they release the first issue of the next run before the last issue came out. The last time I ever saw this happen was when Jason Aaron was leaving Doctor Strange after 20 issues and replaced what I think was Dennis Hopeless. And for some weird reason, that last issue was delayed. I do not know. I didn't get a chance to ask Jason Aaron for this. The issue was delayed, so they released the first issue of the very next one, and then they released that next issue. Yeah, it was really weird. If you're HD paperbacks, you would notice the difference at all. So yeah. Oh, as of right now, because of basically Batman getting relaunched, so yes, they still remember the Hush 2. DC's longest running title with the highest number of issues that has not had a restart or a legacy renumbering. Yes, this is at number 1 right now. Number 2 is Catwoman. Yes. Number 3 is Harley Quinn. That's just behind Catwoman. You're thinking, okay, so what's number 4? If Harley Quinn is the 3rd highest, like, is there a book behind that? That's not had a restart recently. It's not Green Arrow because that's at the end really soon. Okay, so what is DC's 4th longest running title that's not a relaunch or a renumbering? I would say it's probably Superman. It's probably Superman because that got relaunched a couple years ago. Yeah. But I would say it could be Superman, possibly. I'd say it's probably Superman, because that has not relaunched in a few years, so that could be the 4th highest, that along with maybe Flash and maybe Wonder Woman. But I would probably say it's probably just those 3, because most of everything else in the last several years either got relaunched or just renumbered, though they've done this only for 2 titles currently still. That's Action Detective, and I think Action is going to really... I think of the 2 titles, I think Action is going to release 1100... Actually, no. Detective just released 1100 for... Detective released 1100 for Action did. So, we have a brand new storyline here, which... The trade itself, the cover reminds me a lot of Leaping into Light. So, like I mentioned, Dan Winters is on the writing here, with Dexter Sawyer in the artwork. I'm like, that's interesting, because the last major book I can think of the guy was the artist for was Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 2. Also, a little thing about Nightwing's costume. It looks like the pre-Flashpoint Nightwing costume. Yes, kind of interesting that he went back to this, or at least basically they altered a little bit. So he gets with this pup master of what happened with the Graysons and the Titans. And like New Age of crime dawns in the city of Bloodhaven. And then Nightwing comes in, beats him up, place blows up, and then he comes back and sees the mayor. And we see she's meeting with a CEO of Olivia Pierce, CEO of Civic Solutions. Yep, the golden boy of Bloodhaven. Yeah, so yeah, basically Tom Taylor had it because Titans moved out of the Titans Tower in Bloodhaven. They moved back to the tower in New York City, which was abandoned for no reason. So Dick Grayson still had the tower and still had the Titans Tower in Bloodhaven, which he owned the building. So basically, that's become his home because he owns it. It's basically his own personal base, and he's not renting an apartment building now. He owns a building. So then, of course, you find a robot, and then, of course, basically that somehow this is connected to this company, and inside the robot is a rabbit. Yep, like it's a magic trick. So then he goes home to Titan's Tower because it's his home. And Oracle's living there because I think it's his apartment. He goes someplace. He just hops in some random apartment. He has a dog named Haley. And they apparently slept on the couch for some reason. Like, he's probably at some place. It's probably not his regular apartment. And then this is some weird thing that happens with here, where Dan Winters references when Chemical was dropped on Bloodhaven back in 2006, which in the rebooting continuity hasn't happened, but apparently that event is canon. Yes, that thing that happened to Bloodhaven back in 2006, that apparently happened this continuity. So I'm like, really? So referencing Infinite Crisis? Yes. I should point out there's something interesting about that particular thing. The whole thing of dropping Chemical on Bloodhaven was considered to be one of the worst things to happen in Infinite Crisis, in the Infinite Crisis miniseries. Because the one person who despised it was Chuck Dixon. Because here's the weird thing. Apparently, the original plan was to have Dick Grayson in Bloodhaven at that point because Dan DiDio, I never talked about this, but apparently the plan was to kill Dick Grayson during that miniseries. And somebody must tell Dan DiDio that's a stupid idea. So all those great supporting characters that Chuck Dixon created over the course of his 7-year run, with the exception of Lady Vic, all killed. Yep, all dead. And then the town got rebuilt. Somehow. Yes. So, I'm a little surprised they referenced that. They say 1/16 of 2006. Yeah, that happened 20 years ago. So, how do I know about it? I wasn't technically reading DC. I read a little bit of DC in 04, but I had to stop because I was so deep into Marvel. Excuse me, I put it on hold for a few years. I did eventually go back and read it. Like, I got into DC Comics full time in 2010. Yes, 2010, 16 years ago. And it was about a year prior to the DC relaunch. And over time, I read a lot of DC Comics. I've not read necessarily every single one they published, but I've read a lot of them. I've reviewed a lot of them over the past, 13 years I've been doing this channel. Well, basically recording anyways. I technically started the channel back in 2007 when YouTube first started, but I didn't record anything until 2013. Why? Because I didn't think of doing it at that point. That was simply the reason why. So, then Dick basically we have this Halos project where they start arresting people who don't look human. You have Dick Grayson riding his very cool looking motorcycle. I gotta admit, that's really cool. So, then of course, basically, Dick Grayson asks the questions like, walk away, Nightwing, you enter a legitimate police raid. And he's like, oh yeah? You got a warrant? We don't need one. Yep. Yeah, apparently it's like a hit squad. Yep. So, basically, these guys, and it turns these people under this mask, turns out it's a kid. Yes, kids. Yeah, so yeah, and of course, basically, it's like, And of course, basically, like, yeah. Then, of course, he proceeds to rip off his shirt because he apparently hates wearing a button-up shirt. He consoles Barbara. And then he beats up more people with masks. Smashes them. And so we see this kid. His name is Bryce. Yes. And then, of course, basically, he just rides on his motorcycle being chased by Halo Squad. Basically, a corporate-sponsored hate squad. Eliminating people for no reason. Just because declared scum. Yeah, and of course, basically, you clean up the BPD. Even to clean up the BPD, not armed to teeth. But you clean up the force. Complaint job 50. They killed a kid. They did it in front of me. No one wanted that. Was the same side. I hope so, but so your new best pals, the ones who have been sending bombs across the city, you have proof? Their CO, I know who she is, really is, really both. She is. I think it was a long time ago she worked with a partner. With their partner in her life. Yep, a flashback to his time with Batman. When he was Robin. Also, yeah, it's the style of basically the flashback. For some weird reason in the New 52 continuity, whenever they reference his time with Nightwing, they apparently do not want to draw the artist. For some weird reason, do not want to draw him in the short shorts. Because that's what he originally wore. But no, we had to give him freaking pants, and or actually more accurate, wear the Tim Drake costume. Because, oh look, here it is, the short shorts. Because Zack Snyder is not afraid to show this. It's like some people at DC are afraid of this costume. It's like, no, hide those legs. Put him in Tim Drake's suit. That's DC's MO with this character. So yeah, and then of course we meet up with this girl, who I think is Olivia, and then we see this master manipulator, and of course like you're Fabio, yep, and then it turns out basically there's a little thing here. So the mayor is like running for re-election. We see this area being built. And then, for some reason, it's like, after coming all those years ago, see this by Lethal Weapon. So, now we're referencing Renegade? I'm like, okay, interesting. So, that's the second Nightwing storyline referencing here. Now, 116, I believe that was written by, I think that was in the Blood Brothers storyline, I think it was. Renegade, I think that was a Chuck Dixon one-shot. Let me take a look about this. Yeah, so this was a Devin Grayson issue. Yes. That's basically what 116 was. So basically, first referencing a Devin Grayson issue, and then referencing Nightwing Renegade. So Renegade was a storyline that was also by Devin Grayson, which was the kind of part of the same storyline. Kind of interesting they referenced that, of all things. Yeah, so first we're referencing Infinite Crisis, now referencing Renegades, so referencing two Devin Grayson stories. Okay. Those people died, and then we have this happening here. And fighting these creatures, and we see Bug Dog, that was someone he knew, and protecting these gangs and the blood transfusions, and then we see this master manipulator Yes. We have blood transfusions like he's a ringmaster. So, yeah. And then, of course, deal with this weird circus. And it looked like this looked like reality is being altered in this show. Like, that's interesting. Because this first Nightwing who's basically messed with his mind. And then, for some weird reason, Olivia takes off her face. And we don't see what it is. And it says, "We got him, didn't we, boss?" Boss? Yeah. We ended on a cliffhanger. Interesting. Yeah. A very good book. Kind of interesting referencing Devin Grayson's stuff in here. I was kind of surprised to see that. Yeah. Very surprised to see referencing, of all people, Devin Grayson. Yeah. I did not expect that at all. Excuse me, yeah. Oh, this is from Nightwing. I think this is volume 4. Yes. Because it is quite shocking, the fact that they even reference this stuff here. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the cover of the trade, that's actually from 120. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, the guy here is known as the Zenny. Yeah, he's from the 5th dimension. So, is he original character's continuity? He is. What was the issue that referenced, I'm looking up on here, what was the issue that referenced, first it was the whole thing with Chemico. Oh yeah, so it's actually 123. They reference this. Oh, in case you're curious, Dexter Soy is still the writer on this book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting the fact that they did this with this. Yeah, the finale. It's a finale issue. No, but you wrap it up, move on to the same thing. But apparently, nope. Let's just let's, for some reason, end on a cliffhanger. Yes, end on a cliffhanger for reasons. Yeah, but great book overall. Get the book roughly a 9 out of 10. Yep. Trying to get back here. Thank you. So, that's pretty much the particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, notifications. Next up we have is My Hero Academia Vigilante. Okay, next video. Bye.